Hey Peter, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. It's saying that the host has stopped my video, so you might need to enable me to have video.
Okay, hold on one sec. I'm gonna put you as I'm gonna make Caroline host actually. So hold on one sec. It'll make it easier. Okay, Caroline is on. I gotta find where the participants are. Here we go. All right. Hello, everybody. People are joining. Let's see here. All right. And then Caroline, I'm going to make you make host. Here we go. And then video. Okay, Caroline. Ben, you may have to click your video thing to allow video on the lower corner. Does it say anything?
Still coming up with the same message. Unable to start video because the host has stopped it. But maybe you don't want everyone seeing my face. It's probably better.
No. We need to see your face. Caroline, I made you host. See if you could figure out a way to have Ben come up. I'll just start welcoming everybody that's coming in. Some people here early, which is great. We're excited to dive into some interesting stuff today. And maybe it says because of recording. Is that right, Ben?
No, it's only saying you can't start your video because the host has stopped it. Unable to start video.
Okay, cool. Well, Caroline's working on it now. We'll see if we can get it. And if not, we'll put a picture of you up there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'd be even worse.
Great. For those jumping in now, we've not started yet. We're going to start here in just like a minute or two. So grab a glass of water or coffee, some notepads maybe. Great. Caroline, any success? No. Maybe if I stop this.
Exists naturally within the fiber. And so we're not reliant on paper documentation or barcodes. We can simply test the product at any point in the supply chain to verify that in this instance, it is 100% Supima cotton. You can pop to the next slide, Caroline. This is definitely a very elementary way of discussing the science. But if we pictured this, albeit a tree, but even as a cotton plant. So a plant is absorbing elements from the soil. It's being impacted by climatic. And so the cotton fiber is absorbing these elements, trace elements and isotopes, which are unique to the production location in which that particular cotton is grown. So cotton from the US looks very different to that of cotton from Brazil, India, Turkey, Pakistan, Bangladesh, etc. But because we're measuring these elements in up to parts per million and parts per billion, not only are we able to identify differences at a country of origin level, but even able to identify differences down to a regional and even a farm of origin level where that's required on behalf of our clients. So that's really when we're testing a product, we have a reference database to test against, which should just bring us to the next slide as well. So as a business founded in 2008, we've spent many years and harvests within the textile industry specifically. So for us to be able to test products on behalf of our partners in market, we have to have the reference database available to do that. So the way in which we do that is we've invested a significant amount of time and resource in visiting farms, collecting samples of the actual cotton fiber from the cotton boll, analyzing these for trace elements and isotopes, and then putting that data in parts per million and parts per billion through our sort of statistical algorithms and developing what we call is an origin fingerprint. That origin fingerprint is then stored within our database, allowing us to test on behalf of our clients. So a very similar process with Supima. We've mapped the entirety of the Supima growing regions. We've been working with the Supima team, a fantastic team at that for several years on a harvest by harvest basis, developing this database, which we now have in place and are able to test against.
It's incredible. This is incredible. So this is exactly, yeah, this is basically the definition of the thumbprint, right? The fingerprint, like it's individual identifier.
Exactly. So much like, even though, and a very good point to just reaffirm is that forensic science has two major sort of streams to it. One is DNA testing. So DNA will tell you what something is. Isotopic testing will tell you where something is from. And when we're talking about traceability being a prerequisite to understanding the environmental, social, and governance impacts and impact that the company has, having guarantee and authenticity around origin is absolutely a critical part of that.
Couldn't be more relevant. Couldn't be more relevant today with the whole Uyghur region of Western China, right? I mean, it's literally all over the news. I mean, this is the idea of the origin. And how did you guys get? You obviously have. You got in there. You have soil samples from there. How would you be able to identify the cotton coming from Western China?
So won't be able to speak to that in detail, but we've been working in this industry for many years, and understanding that the issue as it pertains to certain producing countries has now come to the forefront around forced labor issues. And that is also not static. We've seen other countries that have had issues previously are also changing their practices, and we may see in the future countries that are otherwise acceptable now or regions may also have issues in the future.
Very
we were fortunate. we were very fortunate that we have been operating in this industry for some time and have been developing our global data sets. And important to note, within textiles, yes, cotton is a very important topic because of the regulations that have been flooding in and the concern around importing product into certain jurisdictions. But we work in many other fibers as well. So we first started working in the textile industry on strong and merino wool. That was sort of a stepping stone from working within the meat and horticultural based products, but then we also work in cashmere and mohair and are looking at other origin important products within textiles and also other key commodities and industries.
Well, that's exceptionally diplomatic, and I commend you for sort of towing the line there a bit on Western China stuff. I'm not as diplomatic, so I'm just going to go ahead and dive in on a few things there because there are some points that I think are worth mentioning and certainly had questions for myself as someone that manufactures apparel all over the globe. And Caroline, is that the last slide or is there another one after that? That's it. Okay. So as far as that goes, the Western China stuff and anybody that's on this call, if anybody, watches the news, obviously there's been a lot of this recently in the Uyghur region of China, which is in Western China, where there's well-documented situations of forced labor, slave labor being used against the ethnic minority there. And we heard about it for a long time. But as of recently, there's a consumer brand, 9 Lines Apparel, which we have no relationship with, but they basically had concerns or thoughts that maybe the blanks that they were buying were coming from this region, or the cotton specifically was coming from this region. And so they did some investigation and they found out through isotopic tracing that in fact, all of these blanks that they were buying were coming from products that were using the cotton from this region. And when you don't have to pay for labor because they're slaves, you're able to purchase products really inexpensively. And that situation is now coming to a forefront because if I'm not mistaken, there's new legislation, there's legal requirements now to prove any product that comes into the US has to be proven that it's not from that region. Is that accurate, Ben?
That is accurate, yeah. So June 21st, the law came into effect. It's the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, which makes it illegal to import products made in whole or in part with forced labor. So it's actually an amendment of a law from the 1930s, which has just become more specific and more targeted, which has then enabled customs and the border to actually take decisive action or detain shipments upon entry into the US.
This is terrific. And for all of us out there, you know, we have relied on a model of, yeah, sure, if someone tells us this is what it is, then what else are we to do? We have to believe it, right? There's no investigative approach previously outside of paperwork. And to have this sort of ability to go in and for this company to have essentially busted the company that was supplying them. And it's not to indict that company that made those products, because they may have been getting told this bad information that it wasn't coming from the Uyghur region. But I believe a large percentage of China's cotton is in fact coming from that region, if I'm not mistaken.
There is so just based on, we're really here to support our clients in managing their risk and also helping from an authenticity perspective. And certain clients will have different sourcing requirements, but yes, we're dealing here with one of the largest global cotton producers of about 20%, and of that 20%, 90% based on last year's USDA trade data was from the particular region in question.
90% was coming from that region of the China's cotton production?
Correct, yeah. Based on that's just based on publicly available USDA information.
Yeah. Well, for us, I think it's all the more reason for us to ask these questions and to get proof. And I'm really glad that the legislation is taking place, because like I said, it's not necessarily the company's fault manufacturing these blanks, because they may have been told otherwise. But now we can go out and get proof. We should get proof, right? We should be able to verify these things. And it gives you the kind of assurances you need. You know, when we started Original Favorites, in 2016, that was the first call we made, was to Supima. Like, we wanted to use their cotton. We knew it was the nicest cotton available globally. We knew that there was some verification and credibility requirements around it, that they would need to certify things. And it was really interesting because it was the paper trail. We would order it and they would show us throughout the process where the cotton came from. So we thought we kind of checked every box. That's really what you do. You're sort of checking boxes. And when our products arrived, 25,000 t-shirts, which for us is an enormous number. We were just starting the business. We didn't know much about anything other than what we were told. We built these products that we loved. 25,000 t-shirts arrive in black, white, and heather gray. And we had all the proof that it was Supima. We were like, great, we're good. And then Supima said, we need you to send in one of each color t-shirt for testing. And I was like, oh, no, we're good. Like, it's tested. We got the paperwork, everything's fine. And they're like, no, we're going to use Oritain to verify these. And that's when and I think all of us sort of panicked, because the mindset was always like, well, we checked the box, we got the proof. Well, thankfully it came back that it was 100% Supima cotton. And part of that is probably because Supima is so militant about this in such a great way, that they protect their farmers and the suppliers, that the suppliers know, like, hey, I can't fake this. If they're asking for Supima, it's going to be tested. And the factory, the mill, the yarn spinners all have to play by the rules on that, because they know that there's consequences there. So when it came back and it said it was verified, it was really cool. It was also a bit of a mindset change, and is sort of part of the ethos of our brand, just because we felt like you can't just say something, you need to prove it. And I think that was partially sort of instilled in us in that process. It sort of flipped the script in terms of what we needed to expect and what we should expect from our suppliers. So that's really interesting, and certainly relevant just because of the news today. So as far as, the disruption this is causing, obviously recent discoveries seeing that we've got cotton coming from slave labor in a foreign country, and we have sort of proof now that we can go back and say that this is or is not. Have you heard about what the disruption this is causing in the supply chains? I mean, we've got major businesses, huge companies that have been using these supply chains for 15, 20, 30, 40 years. Have you heard much about what's going on and how people are having to upend and move and change their whole supply chain around?
There's definitely there's been a monumental shift within the apparel and textile industry. I think back in 2008, there was one law that pertained to sort of apparel and textiles, and it was in relation to timber. Now we're faced with around 14, and there's a lot more coming down. There's other corporate social responsibility, due diligence, transparency acts, New York Fashion Acts. There's a lot of regulation coming down to tighten up what has historically been quite an archaic way of doing business from an authenticity and traceability perspective. The law that came into effect last year was really a catalyst to force companies into action, because there was now punitive measures around ensuring compliance with the importing requirements into that particular jurisdiction. So it's really moved traceability and authenticity from what was unfortunately a nice to have now into a business necessity and just a golden standard for conducting business going forward. So we've definitely seen a vast shift in our clients' mentalities and in the industry's mentalities and awareness of the importance of traceability and authenticity. It impacts a multitude of people within organizations that we speak to, from chief legal officers, chief risk officers, a lot of the wider C-suite, sustainability, procurement. You want to ensure that what you're buying is what you're getting, because you're, especially in case of Supima, you're paying a premium for this amazing fiber, which represents, I believe, less than 0.01% of the world's cotton. And I think the issue that they came into many years back was that there was a significant more amount of cotton labeled than was actually produced. So clearly there was an incentive for adulteration and for that to be taken advantage of. So yeah. We will continue to see brands and retailers and good actors within the supply chain take a stance on this, because it's absolutely imperative to do business around an authenticity and verification perspective.
It's incredible. It changes the entire approach, I think, to consumer goods on all fronts. Just me as a consumer, in addition, forget the supplies chain portion of it. As a supplier, like as a consumer, it's amazing to be able to verify and authenticate stuff. And I think it's really interesting on the food front too. There's so many applications for this. As far as your products that people could trace, if we have clients on this call that have products outside of the stuff that, we already get verified for them, what's the process? Can they contact you? Can they get stuff verified through, your technology independently as a consumer? I mean, as a consumer brand, a business facing the consumer?
Yes. So I don't want this to sound as if a paid plug, but yes, they can contact and reach out directly. Yes, sort of the relationship and the dynamics that you have in place with Supima, and sort of just by simple proxy of doing business with Original Favorites, you have that level of authenticity and verification. But if there's other product areas or supply chains that they're also focused and concerned about, yes, absolutely, we can have a separate discussion about what that might be, from not only a positive verification angle, but also to ensure that cotton that might be otherwise prohibited under their sourcing policies is not making it into their supply chains. And one of the largest impacts that we really see from the adoption and implementation of physical product level forensic based testing is that, one, it's not only giving you the tool to detect when there's non-compliant behavior, but simply empowering our clients to notify their supply chain that they have the ability to test and they will test. That in itself is one of the greatest deterrents to illicit behavior within the supply chain as well. Yeah. And helps to generate accountability and responsibility and transparency as well.
Yeah, I guess accountability, that's the big one there. So the old adage, if something seems too good to be true, from a pricing perspective, it probably is. So I guess I got a lot of answers out of that I really hadn't had before too. So thank you for that. I wanted to see Rachel or Dave, do you guys have any questions you want to ask Ben before we open it up to the rest of the audience?
Yeah, sure. Dave, also involved with Original Favorites here. Thank you, Ben, so much for giving us your time. I guess, my mind goes to how do I simplify this in my own brain so that I can understand all the moving parts. So a couple comments and then a question followed in. But, when we decided to do the panel and the discussion on traceability, it was a general discussion on products and traceability in the marketplace. But how it pertains to our business and how we got involved with Oritain is directly through our relationship with Supima. So again, Oritain verifies where products are coming from through testing the soil, having that database, and then taking the garment and then testing the garment and verifying it against the soil samples they have. So some just pretty awesome stuff. And that's all the big science behind it, right? But again, Oritain does this for lots of products and lots of different customers. And what's kind of unique is even the customer that was loosely referenced that's been buying the goods from the Uyghur region in China, that it will come out in the news. They are a major top tier blank t-shirt provider in the industry, and it's going to be a lot of bad blood for them. And it's just, you know, terrible stuff, right? Like, this is some of the reasons why we're focused on this as well. Is not only are we trying to verify, we're giving you the extra long staple and extra long fiber that is so valuable to us and our customers, that is specifically Supima, but it's also to try to shine light on these terrible actors that are acting in this horrible way of putting people in labor camps and state-sponsored labor, which is, you know, slavery, modern day slavery. So, you know, lots of reasons for traceability to be, you know, a topic with our customers and their customers. And that's really what this is about, is why is traceability important? And I think one of the really interesting things that Ben can speak to, and kind of goes into my question, which is lots of other products, and Pete referenced this too, there's other products in the marketplace, and let's use luxury as the quick one to reference, that is, traceability is at the forefront of what's happening. We're talking Tuscan leather goods, even coffee. We're getting down to this really granular level. We almost know some of, you know, the detail of which farm is this coffee coming from. Apparel, the system has been broken and taken advantage of since probably the beginning of this trade and barter and trade and selling product system, right? So what we have seen in the last little bit of technology is the documentation can get forged through, it's either a PDF. So without Supima, this is generally what you're relying on when you're buying a product from someone overseas or cotton overseas. So there's a series of handoffs that you get the cotton that goes through a cotton merchant and then goes to a spinner. This is done with Excel files and PDFs. Easy stuff to manipulate. So if you're trying to hide where the cotton is coming from, this is literally a matter of Photoshop or just moving some stuff around on the spreadsheet. So it goes from the cotton merchant who's selling it to the spinners, and then the spinners, you know, goes into the factory or into the yarn, creating the yarn and the fabric itself. So kind of, you know, getting deep into here my explanation of why it's important for us, but specifically textiles and cotton has this system that has been easy to manipulate and out of date. And again, enter Oritain as one of the few options out there that really, you know, takes all the guesswork out. So since Oritain can't verify, you know, every step of the process every single time, right? The systems are so huge, and they're, you know, some of these things are thousands of miles away from customers, and the handoffs are sometimes very long distance. They've gone right to the two ends, the very, you know, the alpha and the omega. It's the soil, and then they take the end garment and they test it against the soil samples. So Ben, if you want to elaborate anything on the how specifically cotton is easy to manipulate from the merchants, and you know, just this kind of older system that we're seeing other luxury goods do a better job of verification, traceability, authenticity, and kind of, you know, what Oritain's doing and kind of where we see the rest of this traceability stuff impacting apparel.
Sure. So yes, some great points there. And just so when we're testing a sample at any point in the supply chain, it's always against the reference database of the actual physical textile. So if we're creating a database for cotton, it's based on the cotton fiber that we've collected at the farm, which has been impacted by the soil. So not necessarily the soil that we're testing, it's the fiber at the farm level, which has been impacted by the soil and other climatic conditions. But it's a great point, and one around, we are dealing with extremely complex and fragmented supply chains. There's lack of visibility beyond even a lot of the times the garment manufacturer, let alone where that fabric is then coming from, let alone where the multitude of different yarn sourcing is also coming from. So textiles is also not unique. There are other key commodities, coffee, tea, cocoa, soy, palm, that are also very similar harvested products that go through very similar convergent processes and many different hands. But as a textile and cotton, once it's produced and sort of harvested at the farm, the beautiful picture that we can see behind all of our faces, once that cotton is picked, it's then sort of condensed and processed into a bale. That bale is then sent to a ginning facility where it is then cleaned. And one of the biggest issues is really around the laydown stage. So in a ginning facility, there's multiple bales stacked together, and there's a picker that cuts off the top of those bales so that you're getting a uniform color and you're taking a different part of each bale. And that's a very susceptible area to product adulteration and putting some illicit bales in with other bales that you want to source. But then even as you go through the yarn process, you're importing yarn from different countries. It can be a commodity-based yarn where the origin is completely unknown that you're then introducing into your supply chain as well. So there's many different hands and nodes in which textiles goes through. There's a lot of layers. We're dealing with very complex, globalized and fragmented supply chains. So having the ability to test at any point in the supply chain to verify what you are claiming is critical and an important part of the authenticity and verification process. And just in terms of other industries, what we've seen is even Kering, the luxury conglomerate, they had generated a report that I believe they do on an annual basis called their environmental profit and loss. And that's given them the ability to monetize their impact as a business so that it gets more attention and focus around the direction and strategies that they're taking. And through their EP&L, they had identified that 70% of their impact as a business comes from the origin of the raw materials that they buy. So being able to substantiate that through scientific testing enables them the ability to have a better understanding of the impact of their business and where they can then make sourcing decisions to reduce those impacts as well.
So just to chime in a couple more things too, and there are, when it comes down to it, we believe at Original Favorites, all of what's happening surrounding Supima and the verification and traceability hopefully comes across as these are things we can discuss to our customers, right? Or help our customers with those talking points because we think it's so valuable, right? Like we're literally, helping people from, buying products that are coming from regions where they're forced labor, right? But also on the quality of the goods too. So there's obviously the extreme cases, but so, so I'm putting myself in the shoes of the folks on the call, which is we probably have a lot of consumer facing brands, which hopefully these are talking points, a reason to reach out to your customers on the importance of traceability and what's happening surrounding Supima. But also for anyone that's on the call that's in a large organization, publicly traded, large business, maybe have a risk management department. If your ears aren't perked up, they should. This can come down and potentially hurt lots of things, share price value, if any kind of something in the media comes up that you bought products from this region, this Uyghur region in China, it's going to be bad for your organization. Again, just discussing the importance of traceability on a variety of different levels.
Yeah. Well, and Dave, on that front too, we're talking about one of the largest blank suppliers in our industry that literally just came out. Like it's their whole product range. This is a major change.
Yeah.
So do we want to open it up to some of the clients that are on the call here to ask some questions and see if there's something they want to chat about? You guys good with that?
Sounds great.
Okay, cool. Do you want to unmute? How do you want to do this, Caroline? Should we unmute or should we just have them type in? Actually, they're typing in now, I think, aren't they? If anybody has questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A situation here. There's like a little thing at the bottom, I believe, that you can type in. Is that right?
Yeah.
So a few of these in here, and these can be directed at us or at Oritain. It could be unrelated to Oritain. It doesn't really matter. This is like your chance to chat with us in addition to our standard communication platforms that you guys can always reach out to us. Why did Original Favorites switch to Peru? This is a good one in here. So we really liked our factory in India, and we still do. The switch was centered around two major things, I would say. One is proximity to our warehouse, and sort of the alignment with the time zone standpoint makes things a bit easier. That was a component of it, but the biggest part was as we grew and capacity requirements, we sort of moved to a larger operation that has a bit more by the way of capability on production, a little bit tighter QC, and the ability to also have some certifications and verifications that were really important to us. And this factory that we work with in Peru is fantastic. They work with a number of global brands that I'm sure you're quite familiar with. We would probably be considered a really small a client of theirs, given some of the brands that they work with, but we do produce a very specific product that we do, and it's a pretty simple production process, and we have a really terrific relationship with them as a result of those two components. Where is the digital footprint available for the customer to see? So I'm not sure if I can follow that all the way. You mean for the digital footprint from Oritain showing the cotton or the verification of it? Or is that, I don't know if you can sort of add on to that question, but basically Oritain is built into Supima. We don't have to do anything with them. They, in fact, as of 2023 now, actually are part of the crop purchasing process, meaning all the price that we pay for the cotton, and it is pricey, includes this authenticity and the verification component, which is built into the price. So actually Supima works with Oritain, pays Oritain to do this as a way to sort of elevate the raw material and to help its marketability. It's used obviously by a lot of very well-known luxury brands and fashion houses, but this is like an additional step that allows them to sort of have it closed loop and covered throughout the process. Anybody else scrolling through here? Why is it safer than 100% cotton? That's a good question. It is safer in terms of, yeah, it's verifiable. We know it's coming from cotton farms in California. It's the most regulated state within the most regulated country in the world. So the idea of having forced labor in a place like California is almost unfathomable. Whereas a region like the Uyghur region, which is now proven to have and continuing to use forced labor and draconian legal measures and unbelievable abhorrent behavior and human rights violations, we would consider that to be less safe to be purchasing cotton from a country that where 90% of the cotton is coming from that region that's proven to have done that. So with Supima, nothing's ever totally fail-safe, but to have molecular tracing, to know where it's coming from, you can identify within a short area footprint of where that cotton was grown. That's some pretty amazing assurance, I would say, from a production standpoint.
Also, each bale for Supima is classed and graded by the USDA. So the USDA cotton classing system is the platinum standard worldwide. All other cotton classing systems are based off of our color grade, denier, etc. So again, every single bale of Supima cotton in the United States has a sample that's pulled off and sent into the classing office, and they're tied together with an RFID tag. So, you know, we really do understand what's happening down to the bale level for what's happening in Supima. So it's hard to manipulate the system. And then we're picking on China fairly, but also the forced labor stuff is happening in many other countries, one of which is India. They've had multiple dust ups in the news recently for this exact same thing. So it's not just China. So, you know, this is a problem globally, and
yes,
it needs to be, you know, the more information we can get out about this, the better. And it's some of the reason why we've decided to go into detail on this, because the more people that understand it and begin to take a stance on it, and it's going to start with the consumer has to push back and make choices. I think that's some of what comes down to what we're all discussing here, and the value of what we're trying to bring to our customers is the power of choice, and to have better products that where people are getting paid fairly, what the bill of goods is matched up with the origin of the material, and, you know, take our industry of textile and apparel to modernized, you know, 22nd century where everything else is. So
and the next question here, T Ramsey, and very well put, Dave, because that is very accurate on every statement that you said there on the consumer side of it. I think it's important. You're very right about that, to push back. We need to demand this sort of stuff. And T Ramsey says here, can you give a quick synopsis of traceability and how do we as the buyer trace a manufacturer's Supima cotton origin? There's two questions there. One, we're going to send out a post, Dave. I think we talked about this, the PDF that we put up there, you guys will have access to, which sort of explains the science in a very simplistic way. But the second part of that, a manufacturer's Supima cotton, you really don't have to trace it. It's built into Supima now. Oritain is the technology that they're using to verify it. So if you are buying something that says 100% Supima, or you are using a manufacturer that's saying they're selling you a product made with Supima cotton, it's going to be tested. It's going to be tested by Supima, and that cotton is going to be essentially verified through Oritain throughout the process as part of the cost of that cotton. And it is, again, it's really expensive cotton. It trades for, multiple 6-7 times the price of regular cotton, but there's a reason for it. It's extra long staples. It's very fine fiber. It's extremely smooth to the touch. It prints well. It's significantly stronger than regular cotton due to the long fibers, and it holds color exceptionally well. Sounds like I'm doing an advertisement for them. I have no connection to the cotton other than we just think it's the best you can buy, and we buy it for that reason. But we'll have Supima on here for a separate symposium, I think coming up here this spring, and we'll be able to hear from them too on that, because I think what they do is sort of a model for what other suppliers in the industry should be doing. It's terrific, and other companies are welcome to use it. They just don't want to pay for it. That's usually what it comes down to.
Again, hopefully too, kind of seeing some comments in here, but hopefully some of these are resonating with our customers surrounding the sustainable development goals that are being discussed, globally surrounding, the importance of companies to take a stance and to set up some sustainable development goals inside of the organization. So, some of the stuff we're discussing here could fall into some of the goals that you guys set for your own organization. This is stuff that Original Favorites has done, but on the traceability side of things, or you're setting goals to, make sure you're not, one of your goals could be, an example is to make sure you're not buying cotton from the Uyghur region of China by the end of 2025. And then you got to go back and figure out how you verify those things. But just again, to try to communicate, how do we talk about this publicly to our customers, and what's the value here? The technology is phenomenal. The product is great, but I think the real value and why we, frame this around traceability is coming down to our customers and getting the awareness surrounding this. So, again, tying it back into the sustainable development goals, these are popular things, and lots of businesses are doing it. If you do a quick Google search, you can find lots of ways to frame this, but just giving our customers, a way to think about, moving forward.
And there's another question here too, relevant. Rich Dennis, I think, put, thanks for allowing me to be a part of this. You said your clothing brand is based on Black history, and picking cotton and slave labor automatically comes up. It's an interesting position that you're in there, because obviously there's a really sordid history there. It's got a lot of thorns, and it's a difficult thing, I think, for us to get our head around. It's the most, it's like the most prized and widely used natural fiber in the world, yet it was used in a really horrible way, just the way they are in Western China right now, via slaves to harvest it. I think, to your second point here, how much of this information on origin, ethically sourced, and pretty much the traceability steps can you share with your consumer? All of it. I mean, we put this stuff on the site for that reason. This is our ability to take the tools that we have and share with our clients so that they can use to help differentiate their products in the marketplace. It's probably the most valuable thing a consumer brand can have today, is the ability to differentiate, and to differentiate through quality, to differentiate through authenticity and traceability. These are things that most brands cannot hang their hat on. It's, as Ben said, this is 0.01% of global cotton production. It's less than 1% of US cotton production is extra long staple Supima. There's a reason, again, that it's a premium product. It's not available widely because most people aren't willing to pay for it. But if you can use it to an advantage, which is what we've done when we built this brand, was to buy better, buy less, buy better. Let's focus on the products we're making and make them really good. You can differentiate that way. And it's a terrific tool, and you should be using it. All that information on our sustainability part of the site that Caroline, Rachel, and Dave worked to build out is all there for you and our clients to use. It's really important stuff.
And just to build on that as well, the session that hopefully the symposium you have with Supima as well, and the journey of that fiber, and the fact that it is one of the most illustrious cottons in the world of such a small percentage as well, mostly grown in one of the most heavily regulated industries, that being California as well, and to understand the care that the farmers take in relation to the cotton and the inputs and the management of the land as well. Just that story alone is enough to want to ensure the veracity and the authenticity of that as well. So that'll be a fantastic session. Hopefully many of your community will be able to join.
Let's see other ones in here. Some nice comments from folks. Thank you so much. Philip, you wrote, what's the best way to market the products to our customers? I think that's really what we kind of mentioned the last time, is in the last segment here, was just use the tools on the site. Like, use the Supima name. If you're buying our t-shirts, those are Supima cotton, like you should market that because we have verified it and authenticated it, and it is what it is. And so to be able to keep that hang tag on there, that's a valuable hang tag. In some ways, it's akin to the Gore-Tex tag that you buy in a jacket. You know, the Gore-Tex didn't make the jacket that Arc'teryx sells. They have the technology behind it that helps keep it waterproof. And people will look at that and say, well, those are two separate companies there. You're using that Gore-Tex tag as a marketing tool in addition to your own tag. The Supima tag should stay on a garment. When you buy a purple label Ralph Lauren shirt that uses Supima, or a Stone Island Shadow Mountain Project something, or something from Saint Laurent or whoever it is, they'll have that Supima tag on there most of the time, because it's an added value to the product. You're sort of showing them what you're using, and that's a big deal. Any other ones in here, Rach, that you're seeing that we haven't addressed, that hasn't been covered yet?
Maybe just questions about, like, if someone wanted to find a manufacturer, or they wanted to submit a manufacturer they have to Oritain, Ben, would they contact you directly? Would the manufacturer have to contact you?
So they would be able to reach out to us directly. If it's Supima cotton that they're buying, and it's sort of directly through Original Favorites, then that's sort of going to be covered under the new system that's rolling out in conjunction with Supima. But if they're sort of suspectful about other products they have within their supply chain, then yes, absolutely, please do reach out. Please connect on our website, oritain.com, or reach out to my email, btompkins@oritain.com as well. I'm happy to have a conversation about what that might mean, or how we can help support them.
It's incredible. We've got a question here for you, Ben, actually from Portia, who says, how does she find manufacturers of certain products that have maybe used Oritain? Do you provide a list of companies that you use them, or is there confidentiality components in some of those?
There's some confidentiality components. Some of them that are in the public domain. A very close partner of ours, Cone Denim, so one of the largest denim manufacturers, we work very closely with as well. We work with a company called Albini as well, who are a shirting manufacturer. So there's some out there in the public domain, but not necessarily shared just due to confidentialities.
Great. There's some questions here about what's next for Original Favorites over the next 3 to 5 years. I'm trying to get through this week right now. For us, like we started this thing as a little side project. I don't know how many of you are familiar with our background, like the early days, but we have a consumer brand that we started, like a brand in sort of the action sports space, sort of streetwear intersection, and it's had a great run, 15 years, and it's had its best year yet last year. But throughout that process, we were developing our own cut and sewn t-shirts and sweatshirts. And when we first started this, it was the concept that would somebody pay for a really premium blank, because we were making our own blanks. We didn't like the blanks that were available. And we put up a website and introduced a few t-shirts, 3 colors, I think, and then 3 colors of sweatshirts. And it kind of went crazy. And that was the question that we were asking was, would people pay more for better, and particularly better with assurances or verifications? Because better is a very relative term, right? But if you can actually prove something, that's powerful. And that sort of ethos is carried through. And now, as we start to grow and expand beyond where we are right now, There will be introduction of other products. We've intentionally kept the range narrow this far because we felt like it would be better to have more color varieties on really well-made products versus trying to come out with like seasonal trends like all the time. I think there's an inherent waste in that because you're constantly sampling, testing, making small runs, and then moving to the next thing. Well, there's products left over, and where do those products end up? They always end up in the landfill. So for us, the whole concept about buy less, buy better is environmentally conscious in its own right, because you are not just buying fast fashion t-shirts that you wear twice and toss. We all have those. They're garbage. Like you never grab them out of your drawer because you don't like wearing them. And so for us, any product we introduce will be something that we've developed. We've got some coming out this spring that we're excited about, but it'll be a slow rollout. It'll be I would call it a curated rollout on anything new, but we're not going anywhere. We're growing pretty rapidly. We're very thankful for the support we've seen this far, and we expect it to kind of be the beginning of what will be a big shift in the consumer mentality, which will help drive our future product expansion, if that answers the question. Let's see here. Matching Pantones. Great question, Brett. Different Pantones of the beanies are slightly different to those of the sweatshirts and sweatpants. Are there plans to have matching Pantones between the beanies and sweatshirts? Is this not quite possible? Great question. So the name of the color on any of the products that we have is going to indicate the lab, I'm sure I should say the textile Pantone for that product. So if you see the term Bayberry on the colorway, like hooded sweatshirt Bayberry, Supima t-shirt Bayberry, that means we used a textile Pantone that we've identified as Bayberry as our color. So they will be very consistent across those products. If you're buying a beanie that looks like it might be Bayberry, but it's a different name, it's going to be a different color. So we don't have any beanies that actually are tied with the same name of a color as the other products yet. And that's primarily because the cashmere merino that we purchased, those yarns, we have a limited amount of color that we can utilize that are not developed by us yet. We will at some point be able to tie those all together. But for now, we sort of work with existing colors that we can pull from in the yarns that we are specifically after, which are these cashmere and merino blends, which are those not familiar with. Those are the two, I don't know, Ben, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but those are your two top wools, I guess, available globally, and certainly prized for their softness, and they have antimicrobial, aspects to them. They're pretty much amazing across the board.
Yeah, that's true. Some of the merino wool and then cashmere as well. Some of the best fibers, and as soon as you put on one of those jumpers or beanies, you definitely see the difference.
Let's see. Any other questions in here we want to address before we wrap this up? I think anything that doesn't get answered, sorry, there's a lot that came through. Any that don't get answered, you could feel free to reach us via email or live chat. We're available regularly for those that engage with us, know that we're usually pretty quick to respond, and we're thrilled with the client base that we have, and in the short period of time to have put this together is something beyond what we could have imagined. So we're very thankful for all of it, and especially thankful today for Ben for taking time out of his day while he's solving the world's problems and busting the bad actors out there. In addition to verifying good actors' supply chains.
Hopefully more of that.
We're very thankful for your contributions and joining us for this almost hour here today.
Absolutely. No, thank you for facilitating the platform for us to be able to discuss a bit more about what we do, and hope there's some interest as well. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, great. Thank you guys all for joining us. Dave, Rach, Caroline, anything else you guys want to add?
Yeah, so we will try to follow up with some talking points in a few slides. We're going to try to see if we are able to get some video out of this that's usable for Oritain, but we're going to be conservative, and so are they. These are to defend Oritain a little bit on this PR point. They want to bring people into the network to help them, so even the folks that don't know that they're supporting bad actors, if they get into Oritain and get into a sampling regiment and program, that is ultimately a good thing. So the goal is not to call people out from the Oritain side, is to make some positive change. So anyway, if there is video available, we'll send it, but likely we'll have a couple slides and a few talking points about Supima and what we discussed here today. And Ben, thank you so much. And thanks to everyone that attended too. Really appreciate it. We're looking forward to the next one. I think, Pete, it's a couple weeks. We're going to do it on Septima, I believe, or at least that's what we're planning. So it looks like we're going to roll this out. This is the first one, but we'll have many more to come, hopefully. So thank you, everybody that attended.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.